Hello and welcome to the end of 2025 or the beginning of 2026. I'm here to talk about all of the books I read in 2025. It was a big year for me. I usually read like maybe 25 books per year. My goal this year was to double that and get to 55. I ended up getting 76 books, may even get to 78 by the time the year is over. I still have 2 more days. So we're going to see if I can get that. This one, I'm just going to go through the books. I'm going to give a little synopsis of what it is, my thoughts on it. We're going to start at our 1 stars and go all the way down to 5 stars. So at the very end, we're going to have our 5-star reads. I hope you get some either good recommendations or some good big book discourse out of this video. If maybe I had a book that I did not like and you did, please tell me all about it. Let me know your thoughts and feelings on these books. And maybe you had a book that you really didn't like and I really liked it. So please, I love book discourse. I want to know all about what you're reading. Let me know what you're going to be reading in 2026. And let me know maybe if you did set a goal, what your goal is going to be, if you're going to be doing any book challenges and whatnot. But we have a lot of books to cover, so let's get into it. Starting off with our 1-star books. Surprisingly, I had 0 1-star books this year, which is crazy. I definitely had some DNFs that I got rid of that I don't really remember which ones I DNF, which I didn't. I was being really nice this year, or there was just not a book that really didn't do it for me, which is crazy because they're always one. Usually, what it looks like with my reading year is I start off the year with my worst book that I could have, and then slowly it gets better. But usually, my first book of the year is my worst book. So somehow, we didn't have a 1-star this year. Crazy. I don't know. Maybe I was being a little too nice this year. Moving on to our 2-star category, our first book is The Saturday Night Ghost Club. This I did talk about more in depth in a video, which I will link. But this one is supposed to be like an 80s small town group of kids exploring like their town's like mystery kind of stories, like ghost stories. This one was just not spooky. I wanted more from it. I feel like the description of the book made it seem like it was something it wasn't. Kind of got like a little gaslit, not gonna lie. It was more of a coming of age book than it was a spooky mystery ghost kind of book, I would have to say. But that's okay. But not what I was wanting out of the book. And that's okay. Maybe that's on me and not the book. Not a good book writing wise. The writing was fine. Just the context and the content of the book just was not for me. Another 2-star read, which maybe I could bump down lower to a 1-star, would be Vampires, Hearts, and Other Dead Things. This one, I had high hopes because I read the Revenant games the month before I read this one, and I really liked the writing. I really liked the style. This is from the same author. And, oh, this one was just not for me. It's about a girl, her dad is dying of cancer, and they believe that vampires are real in New Orleans. And so she plans this whole trip to go to New Orleans to find a real vampire and get her dad to get bitten and turn to a vampire so that he can be saved from cancer. So in reality, it's just a really sad story about a girl not come to terms with her dad dying. But the way that this main character acts in this book, I mean, I can deal with like an insufferable main character, but this girl, like, I like was reading it and I was like, I don't even want to read it anymore. Like, you're just upsetting me. You're upsetting me, and I don't want to read anymore. The plot is a little bit all over the place. And then her best friend, that's supposed to be like her love interest, the slander that he keeps getting with this girl, I don't know how he stayed with her. He should have dropped her from the beginning because it's crazy. Even when she's trying to be nice, she's still being mean to him. I did not want a happy ending for this girl. So, listen, if you can deal with a YA romance of an insufferable main character, and when I say insufferable, just like not even just like YA makes a bad decision, just is just a mean, horrible person, then maybe this book is for you. But this, I cannot tolerate her in this. We are now on to our 2.5-star reads this year. The first one is Lucius Notre. I think I'm saying that right. This was my first NetGalley book I got approved of, and I was so excited to read this, and it was, to me, a little bit of a letdown. So I don't know if it's because I was expecting something more or what, but it's not a bad book. An unknown creature starts terrorizing this like coastal UK town. It gets set free from the sunken ship, and like your characters are trying to like deal with it and whatnot. The problem is that it takes forever to really get into the story. The first half is so much boat jargon that it's like, what are we doing? The writing at the beginning of this kind of reminds me of, I did a lot of screenwriting when I was in college, and it wasn't showing and telling. It was like, I took the car and I turned right on this road. It's like we could just skip part of this and like move on, and like we don't need to hear all of the stage direction. It was also pretty predictable, but the story did pick up midway through in the end, that it was enjoyable, but the beginning was so hard to get through. But not bad. Not bad, but not great. Next, another NetGalley book I read was Home Safe, which is a like woman who hates baseball ends up kind of getting a relationship with a baseball, like a famous baseball player. Yes, it's a sport romance. This book gave contemporary lit like fiction than it did romance to me. The whole plot was basically centered on the main character and her adopted kid that she's been dealing with more than the romance aspect of this book. And it was like advertised as a like very like clean romance book, which that's fine. I wasn't expecting a romance book to have tons of spice in it, but I was like, can we at least focus a smidge bit more on the romance? Like, I feel like this book is about this woman and her child's relationship more than the male counterpart in this book's kind of part in this thing. There was some weird pacing in this. Sometimes it would be like you'd read a whole thing of like a full week and then it would jump like months. And I'm like, oh, so we're just trying to get to the plot. We're just trying to get to the events that are happening in this book and not just like, I don't know. The pacing was a little weird. And the main character, I'm starting to notice the thing. The main character in this one also started to tick me off because she was constantly needing to be reassured on the same thing over and over and over again. And at first I was like, I get it. I understand. I have anxiety. Sometimes we need a few times to be told. But the fact that it was like her whole personality midway through the book and to the end, I was like, okay, girl, seriously, I don't know what we can do for you. You need therapy, and that's all I can say. My year of rest and relaxation. I also read this book in another video that I will have linked that goes more in depth while I was reading this book, but it's about a fresh New York City college student, just graduated. She has it all, but all she wants to do is sleep. This book, maybe it's rated low because it's not my typical book, but I didn't mind it. It just wasn't really quite for me. And there's nothing faulting this book for that. It was good writing. It kind of felt like back in the day when Snapchat was really big and you would just send Snapchat like rants and like huge stories to your friends just to have a conversation. This is kind of what the whole book felt like. Just my friends sending me like Snapchat stories or like audio text messages. The main character was a little bit hard to like as well in this one. I've noticed I've read a lot of ones that the main character is a little harsh this year, but at the end she kind of redeems herself. And also, I'll leave this by saying if you ever watched Remember Me, this book kind of does the same thing. And lastly, in our 2.5-star category, I know I'm going to get some flack for this, but it's People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. Listen, I read all of Emily Henry books this year. Maybe it's because I read them back to back to back to back that I was kind of getting used to the way she writes. But this one, I think these are the characters in this one, which is really sad because I love the two actors who are playing the main characters in the movie that's coming out in like a week, and I'm excited to watch that. I think they've changed a few things. But these characters were just insufferable for me. Don't know what it is. It's about two best friends who would travel for like the world every summer. They go together and they would never get together. And then they had this like big blowout, and now they're going back together for this like one last hurrah, trying to amend their relationship. But like, they can't communicate for the life of them. And I think that what pisses me off. I couldn't get past that they were 30-year-olds, and the way that they were acting with each other made me think that they were like 16 on the football field, upset with each other. This is a bit of a spoiler if you haven't read the book, but the reason why they never got together or like spoke about their feelings for each other was because they quote unquote said that they were just too opposite of each other. What? You never heard the saying opposites attract? I just like they piss me off. They piss me off, and I really hate that because I love Emily Henry, but these two characters, but I'm going to watch the movie. If you want to see a comparison between the book and the movie, please let me know because I would love to do that. I have one 2.75-star read, which is Slash Beauties. This was also a NetGalley book that I read that I had the chance of getting the ARC with, which I'm very grateful for. This is supposed to be a gothic, feminist, body horror, feminine wax figures coming alive and like kind of taking revenge on men. And I would say that's a very loose plot point of this book because that happens at like the maybe very end of the book. There's so much buildup. It's a dual POV of one of the women in like, I think it's 18th century, maybe. I don't know. It's back in the day of this one. And we're kind of reading her story leading up to the current girl's story who's supposed to be taking care of these people, kind of going in together. I don't know. It was a bit much. It took forever to get into. It was more of a historical thriller than it was like a horror book for me. The plot really didn't take off until like 70% through the book, 75% through the book, like I said. And when it did start to pick up, it was a big letdown. I don't know. The twist was not even good either. So it was just like, maybe it's not for me. Maybe you'd really enjoy this, but personally, me, did not. Now in our 3-star category, it starts to get a little bigger because this is kind of where I just throw the books that I'm like, yeah, it was okay. It wasn't bad. So first we have Graveyard Shift, which was a novella that I read at the beginning of this year. It's very short. It's about a group of people always end up passing pass in this graveyard in their town, and they kind of like just all get together occasionally before they go about and do either their homes or their shifts or whatnot, meet up. They notice that there's like a weird grave thing missing kind of thing, and it leads to this whole like mystery of what's going on. Weird things start happening around the town, but it all takes place in one night. I think like 6 hours are taking place, but I find amazing that she can fit a whole story, like 6 characters, all of their backstories, all of their jobs, all of them, how they're entwined in this story, into like 150 page, I think it's 150 page book, and then all have it in the span of 6 hours. Like, I was taken aback by that. The only thing I wish about this book was that the ending was elaborated a little bit more. I know it was left on this like spooky cliffhanger to make it a bit more spooky, but I wanted a bit more. That's all. Next, we have We Used to Live Here, which this is my spook book of the year that this is what led me into my Emily Henry marathon, because this book really messed me up, which is crazy because usually books don't affect me when it comes to horror stuff, but this one, I don't know. It got me. This one is about a new couple moves into a town, or into a small town, and their house is up on a hill. It's starting to become wintertime, so it's starting to get really snowed in. And soon they start getting tormented by like these random people who show up to their house telling them that like they used to live here and can they come in kind of thing. So scary. When I read this, was thought that it was going to be like a human on human thing of just like people are scary. It's the real world. It's kind of like the thing of like people could be living in your attic and you don't know kind of thing. That's what I was thinking this book was about. But it turned like conspiracy theory, supernatural kind of horror that I was like, what is going on? Psychological stuff that was happening that I was like, this is too much for me. It's just like things about like you don't know the person that you're next to is actually the person they say they are kind of thing, which really messed with me. So that is what led to my romance reading marathon. Next up, we have Dating in Dungeons, which is the second book in the series. I don't know if this is what the series name is, but it's Dungeons and Drama was the first book. This is a YA romance series about Dungeons and Dragons and other stuff. It's very cutesy, very Wattpad-ish kind of. These do not need to be read in order. They don't like coincide with each other. This one's about Quinn. She's moving into a new town and she's invited by this like cute classmate named Logan to join his D&D game. Although this isn't like a normal D&D kind of group because they end up like live streaming their stuff, and there's one rule that's like you can't get in a relationship with anyone else in this D&D group. This one did not hook me as the first one did. I still enjoyed it. It was very cute, good romance. I think I enjoyed more of the characters that weren't in the main relationship more than the main characters. I like the friendships in this book way more than that. And this one felt a little too adult for me when it came to the romance. Not in the like spicy sensual way. It was very PG. It was more in just like the conversations they were having were very adult for like, I think they're like maybe juniors, maybe sophomores in high school, and they're like professing their love to each other. Like they're in like the 1800s, like Little Women, Joe scene. Like I just was like, this doesn't fit their age right now. It doesn't connect. This summer is also the summer that I ended up reading the Summer I Turned Pretty books, and the second and third book, It's Not Summer Without You and We'll Always Have Summer, ended up in my 3-star category. We'll first talk about It's Not Summer Without You, which is the second book in the series. Spoilers for anyone who hasn't read it or seen the show. It takes place after Susanna's death, and it's kind of Belly and Jeremiah's book, to put it simply. The back and forth of this book was just too much for me. Belly was driving me nuts between like, oh, Conrad, oh, Jeremiah, oh, Conrad. And I was like, girl, we need to pick one. Pick one or let's move on. This one just did not hit like the first book. I wanted a nice summer vibe, and this was way more depressing and just a huge tonal shift, which I understand why, but I just was not, this one did not. I was like, let me get through this because I need to start reading the other book. Now, this book, the season just came out with us. We're all waiting for the summer in Cousins, summer in Paris, or whatever, the Christmas, whatever that's going to happen. The movie, hopefully there's a wedding scene. We don't know. We don't know. But this is the third book. Spoilers for the first and second. Belly and Jared together. They're in college, but Belly's still hung up on her first love of Conrad. Some decisions were made in this book. You know. I loved the Conrad scenes in this book, and the POVs in this book really made me root for him even more than what I was, because honestly, I was kind of neutral. But then getting into this man's mind, I was like, okay, no, honestly, you get it. Get what you get, girl. Come on now. And Jeremiah and Belly were just pissing me off in this book because they're supposed to be like 18. They aged them up in the show. They're like 18 in this book, making some silly decisions. And I'm like, girl, let's all chill. Let's just chill. Let's get your degree, get your bag, go to Paris, have your fun time, and then decide if you want to marry this man. He just like admitted he cheated on you, and you're like, I'll marry him. Girl, please. It really gave like, I'm 18, I'm an adult now, I can do whatever I want kind of vibe. And I was like, we need to stop. We just need to stop and reflect. I also don't like how it ended. It was so abrupt, and I want more. And so that's why I'm hoping in the movie we get a little bit more, because it was just kind of like, yep, here's the thing. There's a wedding. Okay, goodbye. And I'm like, what happened? Where did everyone go? This one, the show did give a little bit more into what they were doing after it. So I did enjoy that. But I was like, hello, I want some more. You took me 3 books to figure out which boy she picks. She finally picks one. They're getting married and you give me nothing? Hello, Jenny, please. Another 3-star was By Invitation Only. This is a like YA, I wouldn't even say it's a romance. I think it's just like a YA fiction book. Piper, she gets invited to this debutante ball as being the like STEM person instead of like the one of the rich girls. She's kind of like the scholarship girl at this debutante ball. She gets a thing where they're like, you come, you be our like STEM face of this thing, and then we'll pay for your college. Very out of her comfort zone, kind of finding love, but not really. That's not the forefront of this book. And then there's Chapin, I think that's her name. There's another girl. She's one of the rich girls. She is the one with her brother maybe falling in love with the main girl. She's the one who's fighting with Piper to become the debutante of the year. And so there's like that whole feud going on. I really started off liking this one, and then the ending really had a letdown. The side plot is romance. So don't think coming into this that you're going to get a lot of romance, because it's very much on the side. The ending drama came out of nowhere, and I really wish it wasn't put in, because there was already so much drama that we just did not need to add to the pot. This crazy one that you just threw in at the very end, not needed. We could have left that out. It kind of felt like the author really didn't know how to wrap up the story, so she just kind of like adding on some other things and then just kind of like, bam, okay, story's over. So that was interesting. Next, another NetGalley read was Christmas at the Nantucket Restaurant. This one's one of those, if you ever read, I think it's called Picnic, and I think there's another one or the Sandwich Shop or something like that, the Sandwich. Things like those books, this is kind of how that vibe is. This one is the Christmas book of the, I think I read the Restaurant of Nantucket Restaurant, which is like the books I said, but this is the Christmas edition of this book. It's following the sisters around the holidays, trying to work on this restaurant and their lives. This book really felt not necessary to me, because most of the main sisters' plot points were wrapped up in the first book, and this one kind of just focused a lot on the side characters' relationships, because the main characters already wrapped up all their stuff. It was just kind of like, well, Christmas is coming up, I'll write this kind of thing. I wasn't mad about it. I enjoyed it. It's very cozy. If I could read around Christmas time, I would. But I just thought we could have left this one out. Then in another video, I read The Raven Boys. I finally got to this book series. When I say book series, I mean the first one. If you don't know what this is about, it's basically Blue, the main character. She can't see spirits until one day she sees a boy who's going to die soon. And she's basically told that if she can see someone, it's going to be like her true love that she either kills with a kiss, kind of. I'm explaining this really badly. There's a whole thing about her true love, and she kisses him, he's going to die kind of thing. So they kind of assume that this man, since she can see him, is her true love. So she kind of goes through this whole thing trying to figure out like what he is, what's he going to do, can she save him? This is supposed to be like a good found family, but it did not give that to me. Maybe it's because I'm spoiled with Six of Crows, but like this just did not give found family to me. It felt like a setup. This book is the first book, and it should entice you and draw you into the story so that you want to read the other books. Instead, this is just very much a setup to get to the good stuff in the other books, and I really did not like that at all. There was only like one character that I did like, and it was not the main character, and I feel like this character kind of gets pushed around a lot. So I'm like, I'm not reading. I don't think I'm continuing this series. Although I did read the graphic novel that came out with this book to truly understand what was going on. And maybe if I'll continue reading the graphic novels, but I'm not going to be picking up this book anymore. I'm sorry. Maybe when I was younger I would have loved that series, but now I'm like, no, thank you. Next, we have Academic Affair, which is another NetGalley book for me. This follows two aspiring academic librarians who are in Australia, and they both have been kind of at each other's necks for like 10 years. They're both kind of always competing for the same job. They have different like studies, but they both kind of have the same job kind of thing. And they have to fake a marriage to be able to get their like dream jobs with each other. That's the problem. It's the fake marriage thing, the enemies, the rivals to lovers. This book was formatted really nice because it switched POVs between the chapters, but when it switched, it was like another month in. So each chapter was like a month from one person's POV, which I really liked that formatting. I think the characters didn't say rivals enough for me from the get-go. The guy basically was in love with her, but like he didn't confess it and she didn't know kind of thing. And they get married on pretty quickly into the book. I was like, there's not enough like tension and like that I wanted personally from this book. It kind of read like an Emily Henry book where it's like the relationship's there and it's a thing, but also there's another relationship going on with like one of the main characters that's like also a big forefront. So the main female character and her sister have like a really big plot throughout this whole entire thing of each other and like kind of fighting with each other that I'm like, this gave Emily Henry. It specifically gave like book people or book lovers. It gave that kind of vibe. So the romance is there, but it's definitely like I feel like a subplot personally, but I don't know. Then I read Sula by Toni Morrison, and I know I rated it pretty low, but I think it's just at the time I read it at the wrong time that I could. I would reread this book and it probably will get bumped up, but I read it and kind of like ingested it, and I probably need to go back and do more like analytical stuff on it to really appreciate this book. But it basically follows two young women throughout their lives, their friendship, everything kind of stuff like that. They're both very opposite from each other. We see the different paths of lives that they take. I think that Toni Morrison is a wonderful writer and that she writes such like critical thinking, like analytical stuff that's great to write, to look at. So many classics in her thing. I know Beloved is like her most talked about thing, but I also would say that Sula should be one of the ones that you probably read first before all of the other ones. Next, I'm including all my Stranger Things books, even though I have a whole video of me reading all of the Stranger Things books, comics, and graphic novels. So if you want to go more in depth on that, where I talk about all of them in depth, but I'm including them in because I did read them, all the books, not the comics and graphic novels. Stranger Things Darkness at the Edge of Town. On the Edge of Town, Hopper's book. Listen, it follows Hopper. We see him in like the 70s in New York as a homicide detective in New York with like a cult kind of going on, and he's basically telling this story to 11, like in between season 2, and it's okay. Doesn't really give Stranger Things vibes. It's a good like crime story, but like other than if you want to connect to Stranger Things, not worth your time. You could skip that book. Moving on to our 3.25 stars, which we only have 2 of these. We first have Stranger Things: The Dustin Experiment, another Stranger Things book that is Dustin's book, following him as he's a freshman in high school between season 4 and season 5. No, between season 3 and season 4. And he's dealing with the group kind of separating, going their own ways, and like a big science fair mystery. This one wasn't my favorite one, which is really depressing because I love Dustin, but I think it had a lot of good coming of age messages, and the mentorship between Eddie, Steve, and Dustin is chef's kiss. I love those characters together. They really are the heart of Stranger Things now. I hate to say it, it's true. More on that, again, go check out that video. And my second 3.5 star book is Mammoth. I'm gonna do a whole video on this series because I love this so much. Basically, Mammoth, My Beloved, Outer Banks fanfic, basically, in the nicest way possible to put this. There's a group of misfits, teens, in this coastal town that come together to find treasure. So take that with what you will. I mean, this is literally a ripoff of Outer Banks. It says, I think in here, like, if you like Outer Banks or Six of Crows, you'll like this. Girl, yeah, you will, because it's the characters. And when I tell you it's the characters, I mean, from the get-go, There are scenes in this that's literally like scene for scene on some episodes. Sometimes I think the chapters are titled as an episode. But I will say there is a character thing of these, and you have to understand that this is, you see it, right? And their names are almost like the same thing too. It's just changed a smidge bit. So Jude Mayfield, yeah. Reed Clark, Lydia Clark, Mars Highland, Tommy Rhodes, yeah. I love it though. There's 2 more books in this series, and I want to read them just to compare because this brought me so much joy. I so good, so good. Would recommend. It's an independent author. You can only buy it off Amazon, and had a great time. Had a great time reading. Okay, now we have a big chunk of 3.5 stars, so we got to get through this. We got to get through this quick. First up, we have Dungeons and Drama. Like I mentioned before, this is the first book in that series. That was also the other Dungeons and Dragons YA romance. This follows Riley. She is a big like Broadway fanatic, and she gets stuck working at her dad's like game shop, where she meets Nathan, which is her dad's like other like teenage employer, who ends up running some D&D games in the back, and she ends up kind of like rivaling him and kind of convincing him that the way that he can get this girl to like him is by kind of getting close to her, and we all know how that ends up from there. It's a really cute, quick little read. It definitely pulls a lot of influence, I guess, from Taylor Swift when it comes to the singing and like style of this girl. It does read Wattpad a little bit, but you can get through that, I promise you. There's lots of media and entertainment influences in this, so it's a cute little read. If you like Dungeons & Dragons, you like YA, perfect. Very PG, so no problem with that. Another Stranger Things book is The Flight of Icarus, which is Eddie's book, basically following him before we meet him in Stranger Things, through his band, trying to get recognized, some romance for him, and dealing with his dad. And his dad does a lot of like, criminal things. So that's that. I enjoyed it. Doesn't really give Eddie more in depth on that. And the other video that I was talking about, could not associate this book to Stranger Things if I wanted to. Like, if I didn't have the characters, I would be like, this is just a little heist book to begin with. Just a teen going through high school, kind of dealing with stuff and life in the 80s. So other than that, it's fine. Next up, we have Influencer. This book, dual POV between the psychopath cult leader killer and, I should say, a social media cult leader killer, who gets the main character's friends, who we have the other dual POV with, turn on her and become a part of his following. I read this after the Battle of Songbirds and Snakes when I did a reread of it, and yikes. I mean, being in this man's head was a little bit worse than Snow's, and that says a lot. Because at least on Snow's, I could understand some of his reasoning, because I could be like, okay, I could see how he could do this. This one, no reasoning, just doing it because he can. Crazy, absolutely crazy. This book was an audiobook, and they transcribed it into like an actual book. So I guess the audiobook, I have not listened to it, but it seems like it would be a pretty good one with this book. Very gripping. It starts to teeter a little bit in some spots, but a really good take on social media and cult followings and stuff like that. I also really, I read Cultish last year, and like this book and that book tied together, chef's kiss. Another NetGalley book I read was When Devil Sings, which is a set in a small town of Georgia. It is a like horror Southern Gothic book set during like the 4th of July like weekend, where we follow a group of recent high school graduates who band together to solve a like teen disappearance. This was a really good Southern Gothic book. I feel like there's not a lot of good Southern Gothic books that I'm aware of, and this one really was just like a love letter to the South, and just like traditions of that. I'm from Texas, so I do love a good stuff. There are a lot of things in the South that are not perfect, that's for sure, but the community and some of the things that happen around here, it's just like, I'll miss it. This one again takes a bit for the plot to get going, but when it gets going, it's really not bad. Doesn't really get spooky until like the very end, in my opinion. It also kind of ends up in a cliffhanger, and I don't think that there's another book coming in this series, so be in mind if you want to read that. I also read Save Me, which is the first book in the Maxton Hall series. I watched the show, and I wanted to read the books about it, so all of the books came out in English this year in America. So I was excited about that. Did love it. Great to compare. I'm a big comparing person when it comes to books and shows and movies, so that's like one of my favorite things to do. So this one followed the show pretty much to a T, which I was like really surprised about because we all know how book adaptations go. The longing, the yearning in this, chef's kiss, and I can't wait to read the next two books. I know the second season already came out and we did watch it, so I'm a bit behind on the books, but I will get to them eventually. Next up, I had I Hope This Doesn't Find You, which is like a YA romance, like rivals to lovers kind of book. This follows Sadie, who's a high achieving people pleaser who ends up drafting all of her mean things she wants to say to people, her hateful emails to people that she does not like. And the number one person in this school happens to be Julius, who is like her rival, her academic rival in all of this. And one day, all of her emails get leaked, and everyone finds out what she has said about him, and kind of becomes like the town piranha in this school, where everyone's like, we don't really like her anymore because, you know, this trope has happened before. Mean Girls with the book, the Burn book, and stuff like that. This happens so many times. It's a little different for emails, which I was a little like, that doesn't kind of make a lot of sense, but to each their own. I understand we have to come up with some more content. I get it. I enjoy it's different. This one to me, I felt like there wasn't really a lot of romance in this one. It kind of just happened. I guess there was some longing, I guess. I was expecting some more yearning, but it's a pretty predictable book too. So I then read Final Cut, which follows a new high school graduate, Hazel. She gets this leading role in this like indie horror film, Final Girl, but it's filmed in her hometown. And the only problem is that she hasn't been back to her town in a while. There was this whole thing called the Pine Springs Slasher, who, lo and behold, is her dad. Like, her dad went to jail because of this. The movie also seems to be based off of this. So they're kind of like reiterating it, but in a film. So she's dealing with that. But then, while they're filming it, more people are starting to get murdered. So, what's going on? The way this book was written was really nice because it was written as a chapter book, but when they were filming the scenes, it went into a script in the book, and I really enjoyed that. That was a very good creative market on either the author or the publisher. Love that. I also love that we were solving the mystery through with Hazel because we were only getting her perspective and what she knew. So we were kind of discovering things as that character instead of just an overall like, oh, we knew that this person was there, but she doesn't know that kind of thing. The setting, it's a nice little swampy little setting. I think it's in Louisiana, and a very good another Southern Gothic vibes because it is in the summer. Yeah, I think this would be a great book to read if you had like a book club and you wanted to read like a murder mystery together, and kind of like each kind of time y'all come back to like, ooh, this could be, ooh, what could this be, kind of thing. I think that'd be a perfect book for that. Next up, around Halloween, I ended up reading Cloud in a Cornfield, which is by the same author who did Influencer. And I wanted to read this book, but I also wanted to watch the movie because I was like, oh, I know this movie just came out, and this is a whole series. Did it need to be? In my opinion, no. Sorry. But this follows Quinn and her dad, who moved to a small town of Kettle Springs. The community is split in this town when they show up because a lot of the adults are sick of the children because they're all like social media people who are like doing pranks and kind of being juveniles. And the teens are sick of the adults who, quote unquote, say that they're going to make the town great again. So Quinn happens to get together with these teenagers. She happens to be in the wrong place at the wrong time and gets roped up into this scary, friendly, quote unquote, friendly mascot that goes around on like a homicidal killing spree one night. So that's kind of scary. It kind of gave like a mix between Children of the Corn and It. I really enjoyed this book until maybe like, I don't know, probably like when there's like this much left in it, because it was doing so well and then it just got a little silly to the point where it's like we could have ended it. We could have ended it there and it would have been, we would have wrapped it up nice and it could have been good. The logistics need to be studied in this book because it doesn't make sense. I don't really understand how the main character got involved in all of this because she literally just showed up and then all of a sudden she was getting targeted and it's like, but she didn't do anything. Like she literally did not do anything. Just because she hung around with these kids for like 1 second does not mean that she is the vein of your existence. Hate to say it. Enjoyed the setting. The ending was a little silly. I watched the movie after this and was aghast. Crazy movie. They took some big liberties. That's all I'm saying is I don't think this was like a reference. They read it once and go, right, let's change that a lot. So if you're thinking about reading this and the book, maybe choose to do either or separate them in your mind so that you don't get upset when you watch the movie. A next book is A Book of Night by Holly Black. I love Holly Black. I have not read Cruel Prince yet, which I know is blasphemy, but I'm getting there. It's on my 2026 to read. I read Spiderwick when I was young. I love the Spiderwick Chronicles. I love the movie. It's great. Holly Black, chef's kiss, amazing writer. This is about a con artist who wants to take a break from that lifestyle, but she ends up getting attacked by these like shadow blights. Her past is resurfacing, and her now boyfriend might be entwined in all of this business. So that's a problem for her. I really love the magic system in this. I think it's very unique and different, and I like how it's explained and not just kind of like, yep, and there's some shadows floating around. That's how it is. How some people be putting their thing out. I also love that the main character is an independent woman who like needs no man. Pretty much from the get go, she says that. But again, she does do some things for the man that I'm like, okay, girl, we could, hi, we can move on. We can find someone else. I promise you. I am looking for the second book. I just probably won't get to it anytime soon. But a good read. Very nice. Would recommend. I then have The Wild Hunt, which I did read another book. So again, you can go watch a video of me going more in depth in these books. This is set after World War II on this like I think it's a Irish island, I want to say, or maybe it's Scottish. No, it's Scottish because it's Scottish myths where these like bird creatures are taking over this island and attacking the townspeople, and some like town legend comes unveiled. This reminded me of the movie Birds from Alfred Hitchcock. I don't know if there's a book. There might be a book on that too. But the movie, love that movie. Remind me of that. The Celtic legends are a good like historical fantasy part of this book. Very good for October because it's set in October. I also read Normal People by Sally Rooney. I did not see the show or read the book before. I know a lot of people have read the book and seen the show, so I thought, why not? Just introducing myself to Sally Rooney because there's a few other books of hers that I want to read. Follows, if you don't know what it is, follows two people throughout their life, through relationships, breakups, family, friends, relationships themselves, and stuff like that. Just a good slice of life kind of book. I am not a big fan of the on and off again relationship, so this relationship was not my favorite. But I love the flawed characters in this book. Sally Rooney is able to write such good flawed characters that I'm like, this is just a normal human being. And I understand they're going through it, and I get it because life is hard sometimes. So really love that about this book. Last 3.5 star is Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. I didn't read a Babel last year, so I know how she kind of writes. But this book follows June, who ends up kind of like taking over one of her friend writers' books, and she's branding it as she wrote it kind of thing, where she puts in a little bit of her spice. But the problem is that her author friend is Chinese, and she's writing about Chinese history. And so June is white and trying to write about all that and kind of be like an ethnic writer. She obviously gets a lot of backlash and things happen. There's lots of drama. There's cancel culture. There's publishing stuff. There's things like that we get the kind of sight to see. The main character is insufferable. We are in her head 24/7, and it is not cool. She thinks that she can get out of anything that she wants. She thinks that she can rewrite her story. She thinks she's the main character. And sadly, I hate to say it to her, but she is not. And you can really see. So you can't do insufferable characters. Maybe she isn't it for you. Maybe this is not it, but on to our 3.75 star books. We first have Funny Story by Emily Henry. This one follows Daphne. She's newly separated from her fiance. She ends up being roommates with her ex-fiance's now girlfriend's ex-boyfriend. Girl, it's hard. I know it's a lot. It's a word jumble, but it's true. Her fiance's new partner's ex, Miles, is now her roommate. They say opposites attract. Yeah, these people are not getting together. They're not like talking. They're kind of both just moping around, doing their lives, just kind of existing in the same space until one day they kind of decide, like, you know what? We need to stop being sad. Let's go out and do like some things. And they kind of start growing together. They're gonna go, I don't know. There's some drama that happens at the end of this that I'm just like, this again, high school kind of vibes where it's like, you're adults, you're 30-year-olds. You can talk this through without running out of a car in the rain because you don't want to deal with your emotions. Hey, it's not Wattpad time. Also, working at a library and knowing when summer reading starts and ends also irked me a little bit in this because she is a librarian and the timing is just off. I hate to say it, it's off. It's off, I'm sorry. Next up, I read The Hallow Hunt, which is the second book in the Revenant games. Spoilers for the Revenant games if you have not read that book yet. We're following the main characters from the first book as their adventure continues in this world. Trying to save the people that they love. There's some more like love interest and a little bit of like a plot twist that happened in this book that we don't see in the first one. My opinion, this book could have been ended in like the first 200 pages. It did not need to drag on for as long as it did. There was twists that were unnecessary in my opinion. didn't make sense. The world building was okay. I did need to reference the map a few times because they were walking in these woods, and I was like, girl, are we still walking? It's been days. So I'm glad there was a map. There's this one subplot in this book that really irks me because I feel like it should have taken more effect than it did in this story. I feel like it was kind of presented to be this big thing, and then it kind of just got like washed away on their adventure. So I was like, oh, but the ending wasn't bad. I do love the characters in this. I had some characters that I didn't really like in the first book that I ended up loving in this one. And I'm glad that this was a duology and not a series because I think I love this world and I don't want it to continue. It's perfect the way it is. Then I also read The Summer of Broken Rules. This is a YA like romance, summer romance. Meredith heads to her family like reunion that they do every summer on like the Cape Cod like little island area. Or in Martha's Vineyard, I think that's kind of where it is. They missed last year's because her sister ended up passing away and they did not want to like go to like a family event and kind of celebrate when all that was going on. So this is already tough for her coming back to this because she's got a lot of memories with her sister here. But also her boyfriend broke up with her like a week before they decided to go on this trip. So she's also upset about that. Her family has like an annual game of like Assassin. During the Assassin's game, the groom's stepbrother, because there's also a wedding going to be happening with her cousins, ends up kind of being her confidant and they kind of grow close together and bond over the summer. This one, cute, quick YA romance, lots of T Swift references. So if you love Taylor Swift, maybe for you. Cute summer relationship, very much summer camp kind of vibes, but with like cousins. And it was nice. If you want to read, very good. I'm a very big vibe reader and like mood reader. Great summer book. Next up, we have T. Kingfisher's Nettle and Bone. This is a really quick mystical world where a princess turned into a nun must save her sister from her husband, which is going to be the king. So she brings together this found family area of a dust witch, a moth-drawn man, a godmother, and a dog made out of bones. So a nice little crazy little get together. I love a good found family book, and this one was perfect. I thought the adventure was just nice. There was no times on this that I thought the thing was dragging. I love the characters. She does such a good job characterizing them and like making you love all of them in such like a small amount of words. The world building again with such a small amount of pages, amazing. I love there was like a romance in this that I wasn't expecting and I'm not mad about it. I love it. I think it's good. The yearning, amazing. I love the ending. I love such a great I love Tim Kingfisher. She writes such good like small good books and I'm like, yay. I feel good when I read her books. I'm like, I read a book and it was good. And lastly, in this category, we have a Stranger Things run by Max, which is Max's book in the Stranger Things series kind of thing. This follows Max through season 2. We kind of get a little bit of her backstory in California, a little bit of her thoughts going around season 2. Yeah, we just learn more about her past. I like this book. I love Max. Max is one of my favorite characters in the show, so I'm upset about where she is right now in the storyline in Stranger Things. But I love getting more of her background. I know it's probably not canon, where you get a little bit of her backstory and California and like back things on Billy and the way he acts and how she was thinking throughout season 2. Does it add a lot to Stranger Things and the story? No, because it pretty much follows season 2 to a T, but we just get her POV from it. So nothing really new except for her backstory, but a good read. Okay, I did stop last night because it was getting dark, but now we have the sun. We are now on to 4 stars. We are almost to the end. My first 4-star read is going to be my reread of About Summers and Snakes. I mean, I think everyone pretty much knows. If you don't know about this book or this series, then, you should really read it. Prequel to the Hunger Games, Snow's kind of POV in his mind of him going bonkers. Lucy Gray's there, her games. I mean, being in this man's thoughts, you really have to have a tough mind because he's not well, to put it nicely. But I really love this world. I love Suzanne's writing in this. I love comparing all the books together. I love having something to compare to the real world, which is really depressing because it should not be this way, but it is what it is. I love these books. I had a big reread after Sunrise and the Reaping, so yeah. Next up, we have, like I mentioned before, the other 2 books, but this one is the first book, The Summer I Turned Pretty. It is forced to read. I know how juvenile it is. Is it amazing writing? No. Are the characters out of this world? Absolutely not. But I had such a good time reading this book. I read it at the right time. It was summer. I love the summer vibes. I love the show vibes in this first season. A like nice lake house by the beach that's just like a small coastal town. Like that's all I dream for in life. So I just love this. I love how it's so, I guess I explained what it is. If you don't know what Summer I Turned Pretty is, it's about a girl who is in love with one of her like childhood best friends. He's kind of dealing with some stuff, so he kind of pushes her off, and she kind of drifts towards some other guys or even his brother, and that's how we get the love triangle in this. I love the show. I love how silly this series is. I think that this book specifically, or the other two is good, but this book specifically is really good for girls in that coming of age where maybe their body's changing or they're getting into high school or they're starting to, like have crushes on people. I think this is a good book. I think Jenny did such a good job writing a young teen girl and kind of what she goes through with how like maybe she doesn't like how she looks currently. And I mean that's even without teen girls, but I feel like it starts in that age range and maybe dealing with crushes and emotional things during life and kind of realizing that like uh-oh, life is not what I thought it was going to be kind of thing. I love this was just such a good if I have a daughter, I'm going to make her read this book because I think it's such a good just young adult teen coming of age book. That's also a fun book and it has fun things and you can just I don't know. I love this book. Ginny, you popped off with this one. The other ones, they're fine. But you did really well with this one. And next up, I did a whole video on this one too, but The God of the Woods, I finally got to this book. It's a bit of a chunk, so I did put it off as much as I could, but I am glad that I read it because it was a really well written book. This is set in 1970s Adirondack Mountains in New York. The Van Laar family has owned a summer camp for forever. I think their family like built this kind of summer camp in this house. They live up on the property when the summer camp's going on. A decade ago, their son went missing on the property, not at camp, and they have yet to find him. Now, their daughter is at this camp and she ends up going missing. So there's a whole mystery of like, what's up with this family? What's going on at this camp? There's a lot of detectives and like crime, and we're going back and forth in time from like the very beginning of this camp of like the first son's disappearance and the daughter's one. We're comparing things. The drama in this family is something to eat up if you love any of the like reality TV stuff. Hello. And since it's set in like 1970s, there's so many things that are so different from our world now that it's just kind of like, oh, wow, okay. The only thing I have a gripe with this book is that there's so many characters and they switch between each other and you have to remember because one page might be like 20 pages long chapter wise and you flip to another character that you haven't been to in like 100 pages and you're like, oh right, this is this person that does this kind of thing. So you got to really like keep it up here or take notes on this book because this is a good note taking book to keep everything in check. And since it goes back and forth so much, you really just need take some notes. This is a notebook. Also dives into some like women's lives and how they were allowed to do things and not do things in the 60s and 70s and kind of showing like a girl detective and like what was she allowed to do. I find it very interesting. The ending to me was a bit of a letdown. I thought this book this chunky and with this much mystery and this much drama that the ending would be a bit more bigger or something to show of, and I just kind of felt like, oh, okay. I mean, yeah, that makes sense. But at the same time, I'm like, I just wanted something more. But I really recommend this book if you want a good like mystery thriller set in like the 70s in a summer camp kind of vibe. I will have to say this is not really a summer book. Yes, it's at a summer camp, but for the most part, since going back and forth, there is like a winter time. It kind of goes through all the seasons. So don't read this just because you want a summer camp like mystery book. It's not really going to fulfill your what you want. Next up, during the Halloween time, I picked up The Late Night Witches from my library, and this one is a great spooky little read. It follows Cassie. She's basically like raised her sister since they were young. She now has kids of her own and she's dealing with raising that. Her husband has left on a work trip and I don't know if he's really coming back or if he comes back, like what's going to happen with their relationship because it doesn't sound like it's very good. It's beginning of October, so weird things start happening around their like small kind of like town. It's kind of like a coastal town, I want to say. Her family, we find out, ends up coming from a long line of witches. There's this like prophecy thing with her family that basically their like oldest family member witch woman ended up battling this like vampire sorcerer dude, defeated him, locked him away in this thing, but he gets resurrected every October and gets to fight the next in line oldest daughter of this witch family. And if he kills 13 of them, he is able to resurrect and kind of like rain havoc on the world. So, it just happens to be Cassie is a 13th witch. She didn't know she was a witch. Now she does. It's October. She only has like a month to prepare for this man to come and try to kill her. Her sister's boyfriend turns into a vampire because he's like there kind of like making more vampires. There's vampires walking around now. So it's definitely like witches versus vampires. It's a nice, cozy read, slice of life. There's a lot of family talk and just friendship. There's some good humor. Kind of remind me of like a little bit of sitcom humor there at some points of the book. I think it's a really good, it's a good October read if you want something not too cozy, but cozy enough that you're not having to think too much on worlds when it comes to like fantasy stuff. Next up, another fall read. I was really into my fall reads this year. It's different this time. This one follows June, who is moving back to New York City after she has left to LA for like I think 5 years. She was living in New York City from I think she might have I don't know. She was in there in New York City during college, stuff like that. She then wanted to do Broadway. She was trying to do Broadway stuff. She couldn't really afford her apartment that she was in because she moved out. She wanted to get her own kind of thing because there was too many roommates. She ends up finding this beautiful brownstone apartment and loves it, but she's like, I need a roommate. Couldn't find a roommate. She ends up running to a dude who is talking about he wants to move into this apartment kind of thing. She suggests that one. He goes to look at it. He's like, I already got it. She's like, please let me be a roommate. So they end up being roommates for 6 years. He is like this chef restaurant dude. She's trying to be a Broadway actress or just an actress. We see their relationship in the past and how it deteriorated and why she ended up leaving to LA all suddenly and coming back now. They end up somehow owning this brownstone apartment because the owner left it to them when he passed away. And they have to stay there for a month before the paperwork gets written up for them to either decide are they going to sell it or are they going to keep it. And it's them kind of rekindling their relationship of 10 years, I want to say, that they were living in this apartment together. Or maybe it was 6. I don't know. Time's crazy. And I enjoyed this. I love the characters. Maybe that's just because I love both of their jobs and their careers in their life. I did. I loved it. I loved the struggles. I loved the kind of thing of being like, oh yeah, we can't date, but then just yearning for each other and both of them kind of doing things to kind of show like I like you kind of thing, but not really. The only thing that I'm upset about is that this book was leading up to why she left, and I felt again like it was a big letdown. I was like, wow, I hate miscommunication, and I feel like that's what a lot of romance books kind of do. Even if they try not to, they end up doing it anyway. And this was just like a big miscommunication, kind of like we could have talked this out kind of thing that I was like, oh, it was so good. And then that got revealed, and I was kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, sure. Next up, we have another Stranger Things book, which is the first Stranger Things book that was Suspicious Minds. This follows Dr. Brenner and Terry Ives, which is Eleven's mom. When Brenner kind of takes over Hawkins' lab and Terry begins her experiments at the lab, and we kind of see how she got led into this experiment and what kind of happened during her experiment and how she kind of got roped into having a baby for Brenner. I really like this book. This was my first Stranger Things book that I read, and I really enjoyed it. I know a lot of people don't like this book, and I don't know. I'm not a big Terry Ives fan. I'm not a big Brenner fan either. But this story was just so sad and tragic, and I enjoyed getting some backstory on it. I don't think it's canon though, but to me, I'm gonna keep it canon for myself because I really enjoyed it. It's just sad, and I just like her backstory is just a heart wrencher. Yeah, I good book, but sad. Next up, we have Finding Her Edge, which was a NetGalley book for me, but also this book is coming out with a show. I want to say either end of January or beginning of February. It is ice skating. It's Olympics. It makes sense coming at the right time. I think it's going to be on Netflix, so look out for that. This is a YA kind of like love triangle sport romance, I guess you could say. This is about Adriana's family. They're like a long line Olympic kind of family. Her mother ends up passing away a few years back. Her dad's taken over their Olympic kind of like they have like an ice skating rink that they allow people to come in and use. He is not good with money. He's a very big spender, so he's kind of running their business into the ground. Adriana is trying to not have that happen because she really loves the skating rink and what they're doing. Her older sister ends up being able to get the chance to go to the Olympics, so she has this like camera crew come in and film her journey to the Olympics. Brianna had a partner, an ice dance partner, when she was really young, but she had this tough decision of when she was growing older that she was too tall to be his partner. So she ends up being like, hey, we can't be partners anymore. He goes away, joins another thing. Problem is that they both kind of had like big crushes on each other and like never really talked about it. She now has another dance partner. While they were filming, it kind of made them look like they were together. Now her old dance partner comes back a week before they're going to go off to Paris to do this like junior championship thing. And tensions are high. Everyone thinks that her and her dance partner are dating. There's a lot of jealousy, a lot of unsaid feelings. There's a lot of weight on her shoulders to do well so that she can help save the business. So there's a lot riding on this, and it's very interesting. I'm really interested to see the show. Cute relationship, cute little romance. I really did not. It was a love triangle, and I really was like, I don't care which boy you end up with. They're not bad. None of them are like, I'm like, oh no, you can't. No, I was like, girl, you need to pick because you have a good option. There are some characters that you really will despise in this book, which I hope they don't change in the show because we need those characters. You need characters that you're like, oh, I can't stand you, because it makes the characters that you love even better because you love them even more. So I'm really excited to compare the show when it comes out. And lastly, in our 4-star read, we have Stranger Things Rebel Robin, which is Robin's story for the Stranger Things book. This just focuses on her journey in high school and how she's not a big fan of it, and her friend groups, and kind of coming to terms with her sexuality and just her own personality and who she is as a person. It takes over between, I think it like set season 1 and then goes all the way to season 3. I really enjoyed this book. I do love Robin. I love her personality. I think they got her to a T in this book. I love it. Some of the ways that she was saying things, I could hear it in Maya Hawke's voice playing Robin. So I was like, check mark, you did a great job. I love seeing her growth and journey, and I this was a very sweet kind of realization of like her sexuality coming out, and I really enjoyed that. I loved having that little background on her. I know it's probably not canon. Now on to our 4.25-star reads. My first one is going to be Happy Place by Emily Henry. This one follows, I'm pretty sure it's Harriet and Wynne. She has so many characters, it's hard to keep up. When you read them back to back to back, they kind of all blend in together a little bit. I think this was my first Emily Henry book that I read, and I'm glad that I started off with this one because I really enjoyed this one. I think that what led me to read the rest of her books, because I think if I picked up People Meet on Vacation, I would not have continued to read her books. But they are the picture perfect couple, but they broke up like 6 months before this book starts, and they have been invited to their friends like lake house kind of thing, or like beach kind of Cape Cod house. They have to act like they are still together because none of their friends know that they actually broke up. So that's a whole thing that they're dealing with, kind of coming to terms with the feelings and why they broke up in the first place. There is a lot of drama and also just friendship relationship stuff that's also going on in this. I love the characters. I loved how real they were. I love that they had like real world problems instead of just like silly little things that some books can have. I love the emotions in this book, and just the real arguments that you can see anyone having in real life with their partner. And I love how flawed the characters are because that's just real life. I love how real this book was. Next up, we have the Nantucket Restaurant, which was a NetGalley read that I had this year. This one is the first book from the Christmas at Nantucket Restaurant that I mentioned earlier in this video. This follows 3 sisters. They're tasked with coming back to Nantucket, taking over their family-owned restaurant because their grandma passed away, and she left in her will that they have to spend at least 1 year working at this restaurant before they decide to either sell it or continue working there. Because if they don't stay there for a year, then I'm pretty sure it's one of the head chefs will end up getting this restaurant. All of these sisters are in different walks of their life. Some are getting divorced, some are getting married, some are not married, some have children. So they're all kind of in different spheres, but they all come together. I love diving into each of their lives, of where they were in their life and how they were dealing with some stuff. I love the drama in this one with some of the people in this thing. I love seeing the struggle of trying to get this restaurant back, or struggling to have a family relationship in hard times, like losing a loved one. It's a good atmosphere too because it's set like a cozy beach coastal town. And I think they mention a lot of food in this book, and I would not be upset if this author came out with a cookbook with some of the recipes in this book that's mentioned. I think that would be a great marketing decision. Just saying, but what do I know? Next up, I read One Golden Summer. This one I read out of order. I read this one first before Every Summer Ever, I think that's what it's called. Every Summer After. Technically, you don't have to read them in order, but I will say this book spoils kind of like the relationship in the first book. So I kind of already know what's going to happen. And that's on me. I guess I didn't do my research on this, but I guess I wanted to read this book more than I wanted to read the other one. So I picked up this one more because I was like, I want some more summer reads. So, and this one was drawn to me because I do live a lake house, but the main character was a photographer and I am a photography major. So I was like, oh, I love summer and photography. Yay. Anyway, it's a summer romance between these two lake neighbors, and one of them has, kind of grew up on this lake, and the other one comes occasionally. She's there with her grandma this summer. She's needing a break from her life, and she ends up realizing that the person her first photo with her camera and got it like published and put out in these art galleries is actually the neighbor that's over there, sparking this kind of relationship. And we dive into their family and their backstory and how things aren't, town little drama, and how some things are rumors and all this kind of stuff, and they're each growing with each other, and it was very cute. I wouldn't say that if you're a photography person, read it because there's photography stuff, because there's a lot of stuff that doesn't quite make sense. But other than that, nice book. I'm ready to read Every Summer After because I want to watch the show or movie whenever it comes. I think it's a movie. I just have to get to that. Maybe next summer I'll be reading that. Who knows? Next up is Curious Tides. This has been on my TBR for forever, and I finally got to it this year. Very end, a quote unquote dark academic magical society that their magic is all to deal with the moon phases and tides and stuff like that. I think that's really cool because I don't know if I've ever seen any magic system dealing with moon stuff specifically. So, very interesting. It is a chunk of a book. It is a lot to digest and kind of get used to. There's so many stuff at the beginning of this book that kind of explains the system and the different houses that the students are in because of where they were born into. So, a lot to dive into. I know this is a series. I think there's 3 books in this one. I definitely will continue this series. But this basically, the first beginning book starts with a tragic event happening one night in the cave with the main characters of her classmates. She's the only one who survives. Her classmates all of a sudden start kind of like their bodies are showing up randomly on the beach. And she now has this like new rare power that she didn't have before. And she's kind of coming to terms with that, how to deal with that. And she's also trying to find what happened in that cave that night, and can she figure out why what's happening to her is going on. What's going on with that? The only thing is that sometimes the main character can be a bit too YA in my opinion. Some decisions she'd be making is just like, girl, what? Hello? Let's rethink that. So, other than that, really good book. I'm excited to continue with that series. Next one we have is Stranger Things One Way or Another, which is Nancy's book, or it's a Nancy Wheeler mystery book, kind of like Nancy Drew. This one just came out in December. It follows Nancy before season 5 starts, kind of like right after season 4 ends. She's dealing with going maybe to college and trying to get Vecna. And there's another like weird mystery thing that's going on in the town that has nothing to do with any of the supernatural stuff going on. So I'm surprised I really enjoyed this because Nancy is not my favorite character in this. To me, she kind of can be a bit irritating. She's a very big go-getter, and she's a Nancy knocking down Wheeler, and she has amazing moments in the show. I respect her character. Something that I noticed even in this book is that when people come to her with emotions and empathy and like wanting to rant to her, she does not deal well with people expressing their emotions. She kind of puts up a wall and just is kind of like, well, that sucks. I have things to do, and like moves on with it. And I think that's something she needs to work on. Hey, girly, let's go to therapy. Let's work on that. But I think this book did a really good job embodying Nancy, and there's also so many Robin moments with her too. There's a love triangle between Steve and Jonathan, and I'm just like, we need to put that to rest because let's just stop with that. Nancy, let her be her on her own. She's such an independent woman. She does not need any of these boys to be doing anything like that. I know this is not canon because there's so many things that happen in this book that happens in season 5 that does not go with each other. But also, if Nancy had to deal with what she had to deal with in this book and deal with Vecna and what's going on in season 5, girl, take a vacation. You need it. There's gosh, geez, wow. I'm sorry. And then another Stranger Things book would be Lucas on the Line, which is Lucas's book of him in a freshman in high school, dealing with maybe wanting to branch out and do some other things and just be with the boys all the time. Maybe starting basketball. Maybe he's dealing with the friends kind of breaking apart from him because he wants to do other things. And racism. There's so much racism in this book. that it's a whole thing on race and how he's treated in the school and how he's like one of the only black kids in the school. And I think this book was really well written until the very end. They had a whole story, a whole plot going on. It was great. I was like, this is so cool. I love Lucas. And the show, I feel like, throws him in the back most of the time. He's now just getting his flowers with the Max kind of scene, but we don't really see Lucas as his own. And in this book, we kind of see him come into his own and find what he wants to do and what he needs to get done with his life. The book's so good. I feel like it could have been ended in one point, but they decided to continue it because it's like, oh, season 4 starting up now. Let's include season 4 stuff. And it's like, we don't need to put that. You were just reiterating all the scenes in season 4, and we could have just left it at its own thing. I think that would have been perfect. This was a really good book, and it has a lot of deep kind of conversations with race and being your own self and kind of like not changing for people and that kind of stuff. It's a very high school moment where it's like, I can play basketball and do D&D. Really good book. If you had to read any of the Stranger Things books, character-wise, out of the character books, I would definitely recommend Lucas's. Okay, we are now at 4.5 stars. We are continuing on. We're almost there, guys. First up in 4.5, we have Ruthless Vow. This is the second book in the Divine Rivals duology, and I really enjoyed the first one. I remember reading the first one, I think, in like a day, and I was like bawling my eyes out while I was reading it in bed at like probably 2 o'clock in the morning, finishing it up. I was really looking forward to this. I kind of waited like a year to read the second book, so that's probably also on me. I do like how the series wrapped up. I really love the characters in this duology. I think the writing is fantastic. It's so poetic that it's just like reading this is like, wow, this is beautiful. This world is amazing. I know that a book just came out that is kind of like I want to say it's a prequel to this series, but it gives you kind of backstory on the gods in this world. I'm really excited to read that. And this one was fine. It wasn't my favorite. I do love the first book more. I'm glad it was a duology. It was definitely time for this series to be wrapped up. I honestly think this probably could have been a standalone if she just made it a little bit chunkier with the first book. But I do enjoy this world and I do enjoy these characters, so I can't complain. It was a good read. Next up is a Mockingjay reread. I mean, it's third book in the Hunger Games. It's good. It's fine. I might be a little biased, though, because I love Peeta. Peeta's my favorite character in the Hunger Games, and he's not really in this book. And when he is, he's getting tortured, so it's not a fun read. I don't like Gale, and Gale's a big majority in this book, and he just upsets me. I think maybe because there's not as many action as there is in the other books until the very end, and we don't have a whole cast of characters kind of going in with that stuff. And it's just a really sad book because there's so much going on death-wise in this book and emotional-wise, but a really good book. I love Suzanne. I love the series. Amazing. Next up, we have Rebel in the Rose, which this is the second book in the Dagger and the Flame series. I honestly thought the first book could have been fine by itself, but I did not know going to this book what this book was going to be about because I thought, I don't know where we're going to go from here. I'm not disappointed. This was a good book and it had a lot of good plots and the characters are really well in this. I think this book could have been wrapped up, and I know there's going to be a third book in the series now, which I kind of feel like we're dragging a little bit in this series. I did listen to the audiobook in this because I was busy doing things, making Christmas gifts, but also the audiobook is read by Freddie Carter, who plays Cat Sprecher in the Shadow and Bone series for the Six of Crows. Another brooding character of him. He does such a good job reading this that it's like, yes, I believe everything. And even this character in this one doesn't have a lot of say in the first one. He's kind of having moments in this one, pining over the main character. But I still really enjoyed this book. The characters, was comparing this a lot to Six of Crows, not because I don't think he was reading, but because there's so many parallels to it, kind of. So I don't know if this was an inspiration from the author, but I can kind of see it if it was. So I do recommend this series. It was set to be like enemies to lovers. That's in the first book. Is it really enemies to lovers? I would say they're enemies in the first part, but then they start to like help each other out reluctantly in the second part of the first book. But I would recommend this. It's a good read. I know it's YA. It doesn't kind of read YA though, especially some of the sensual scenes gets a little bit more than YA in my opinion. I enjoyed this one. Next up, another YA fall read, that's for sure, is Falling Like Leaves. I love this book. It was I'm a big mood reader, and I think some of these books I read at the right time in the right kind of mood and vibe that I wanted, and that's why they're rated so much. Are they amazing books that is like perfectly written and have an amazing character arc and such a big world? No, but it made me feel good, and that's how I kind of rate my books. And like, did I have fun reading this book? And if I did, I'm probably gonna rate it higher. And if it was just okay, it's probably gonna be rated like, yeah. 3. This one I think is a perfect fall YA romance. Kind of gives Gilmore Girls. This girl ends up like from New York. She ends up going to a small fall town during October. They're having like a fall festival and fall fairs. There's so many fall activities in this book. It's great. She runs into one of her like childhood like crushes kind of, but he's kind of being distant on her. So she's like, what did I do to him? She's dealing with wanting to leave this town, yet everything's kind of pulling her more into this town. She's dealing with some other parental like outlook on life stuff with college stuff during all of this, and I think it's so cute and cozy, and I love the vibes. Again, like I said, it's not a great amazing like perfectly kind of put together story. She does make some silly little decisions. It's YA though. So what can you say? It's nothing to be like this is a masterpiece and no one can ever do better. It's a good book. It's a good book. I had fun reading it. I enjoyed it. The vibes are great. Amazing. You want to read it for fall next year? Add it to your list. Another read this year was Bright Young Women. This was also on my TBR for quite a while, and this follows the life of a college woman and her sorority that becomes one of the tragedies of this charismatic serial killer. We see her life through this incident. We also follow another character named Ruth. She was one of the victims of the serial killer, so we kind of see her life leading up to her getting killed. I forgot I remember picking this up and reading it and being like, oh, this sounds good. I forgot that this was like a fictitious kind of story of Ted Bundy and like his killings that he did, and the stories of the girls that he was taking, and so reading this, it all clicked because there's so many things that I'm like, wait, and I was like, so this is meant to be like that. So yes, interesting how glorified the media is and how the victims were an afterthought in real life and in this book. How corrupt the legal system was at this time and maybe still is, and how women were treated back then in the 70s. There is a lesbian relationship, and we kind of see how the trials and tribulations that they were going through with maybe wanting to show the relationship but then not wanting to show it, and then who was accepting it and who wasn't, and how they got shunned out from their family and stuff like that. This was kind of a tough read. There's a lot of things that go on that is tough. There's a lot of trigger warning, so just beware. If you're a true crime person, I bet you will love this book if you haven't read it yet. This is a woman-led cast of characters. There's a lot of women in this book, and we all see kind of their stories and what they're going through. It is a dual POV between these two main characters, and we're going kind of back and forth in time between Ruth and Pamela of what's currently going on, quote unquote, in the story and what happened previously, and it all kind of leads up to this one point, which I think worked really well. The pacing in this book, great. I read this on a road trip home from Oklahoma, and I had great time reading it. Me and my fiance, we ate this up. We enjoyed it. It was great. Alrighty, our 4.75 star reads. These are the books that I probably was reading and I was like, this is giving 5 stars, and then something at the very end happens and I'm like, oh, you're getting knocked down a little bit. Or they just didn't tip over that bar of the 5 star. So I'm gonna start off with The Dagger and the Flame, the first book in I think this is the City of Phantom series, if I remember correctly. I picked this up at Barnes & Noble at the beginning of this year with my fiance because I was like, I just wanted a nice read. This one was a hit or miss for me because I was like, this either I'm gonna really love this or I'm gonna really not like it because it was posed as enemies to lovers and romantasy. I'm not a huge romantasy kind of person. When I say enemies to lovers, I mean I want them to be enemies. And in this book, they are actively trying to harm each other and kill each other because they are on separate gangs in this city. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the magic system in this and the new kind of like powers that is brought up in this book. I think they're unique, and I liked learning about them and this world. I do wish that the enemies to lovers thing could have been pushed back a smidge more. I think to me the switch was a little like, okay, okay. But I will say I think I was giggling and kicking my feet while reading this book. I love this relationship. As I mentioned before, this is read by the Kaz Brecker, Freddie Carter, reading this dark and brooding character, kind of like giving kind of Kaz Brecker, I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, I recommend this. I know there's gonna be a third book. I don't know when the third book's probably gonna come out. Probably either next year or the year after that. If you want a good series, this is supposed to be YA. The only reason it's YA is because of their ages. It doesn't really read YA, so I do recommend this book. Next up, as I said, I've been rereading Hunger Games, so we have The Hunger Games, the first book, the thing that started it all. I love this series. I love Suzanne. Like, I can't radiate how much I love this. I watch the movies all the time. I read stuff all the time about the Hunger Games. I'm really excited about the new movie that's coming out after reading Surpassed and Reaping. This book started it all, so we have to give it its flowers. I love it. I can't. There's so much. No words can describe. I could literally sit here and talk to you about the Hunger Games for hours on end, and I'm not going to do that. But I could if I wanted to. And next up, we have Beach Read, which I want to preface this by saying that in this book, it's called Beach Read. They're on a lake, and I guess we can call the little beach at the lake a beach. But when I hear beach read, I'm thinking we're on the coast. Like we're on the coast. We're like, there's boats out there, like ships, This was my last Emily Henry book I had to read to be caught up before The Great Big Beautiful Life came out. At this point, I kind of was aware of her writing style, the like plot points and structure that she wrote her book. It was kind of getting repetitive to me, I'm not gonna lie, but I feel like this was one of my favorites out of hers, out of the ones I read before The Great Big Beautiful Life came out. The characters are enjoyable. I love that they do this whole like switching their work. They're both like writers, and they switch because they both write kind of different genres. They switch their style of writing to write their different styles for each other. There's a whole subplot of going and finding this cult because the male character, was about writing about a cult. That was a little weird, a little crazy, a little out there. Like I was like, oh, we're now in the woods trying to find a cult. But, it is what it is. There's some good tropes this book discusses. Good read, good book read. This completed my Emily Henry book thing, and I wasn't mad that I ended on that one. We have finally made it to our 5-star reads, and I have 4 this year, which I feel like is a lot for me. Maybe it's just because I haven't read as many books as I have in the past. But 5 stars, they really have to be up there for me to really do it. I have to really just enjoy the book, and it has to be a really well written book for me to put it up there. Again, like I said, I'm a big mood reader, and it has to. If I'm like really just enjoying this book, and I think about this book after I get done reading it, it's probably a 5 stars. There are some of these probably that if I reread them again, maybe they get knocked down. But in the moment, these are 5 stars. We're starting off with, and I think everyone probably knows that this was going to be in my 5-star read, but Sunrise on the Reaping. I read this book 3 times, I think, when it came out. I ate it up. I analyzed it. Suzanne Collins. I pre-ordered this book. I was so excited about this book coming out. I'm so excited about the movie. I know a lot of people think that this book was very like fan fiction, like pandering to the fans. And I could see that, but I know Suzanne only writes when she has something to say. And I think comparing this to the media and propaganda in the real world and what's going on now is like, we could write papers on all of Suzanne Collins' books. So I love Haymitch, and this was so sad, so sad. And I know that in the epilogue part of this book, when that comes on in the movie, someone's gonna have to drag me out of the movie theater because I'm gonna be bawling on the floor. You need to come revive me because I'll probably be dead. So, 5-star read, love it. It's just, when this book was coming out, I knew it was probably gonna be a 5-star read. So what can I say? And then on the topic of the Hunger Games, I know I'm missing one book, and that's Catching Fire. Catching Fire, I don't know if any Hunger Games book is going to top Catching Fire for me. I mean, this book and the movie is just chef's kiss. I don't know if it's because a lot of my favorite characters are in this book and movie. I don't know if it's because of the games and the plot twist. I don't know if it's because there's so many amazing quotes that come out of this book and movie. This one sticks with me. I think I also have a lot of memories of when this book and movie were coming out when I was a kid related to it, so that's probably also why it's up there for me. But Catching Fire can do no wrong, and if anyone says Catching Fire is their least favorite Hunger Games book, I would like to have words with them because I just want to talk. I want to talk and be like, what? Why? What's going on? Why don't you like this book? Another book that came out this year, Emily Henry's Great Big Beautiful Life. I also know that this one is a controversial topic too, because a lot of people did not like this book because they said it was too like contemporary instead of romance. And I understand, I get it. But I think people need to understand that Emily Henry got roped into the romance category. She, to me, is a very like contemporary literature writer with romance. There is some romance. Some of her books are more romance focused, and some of them are like a subplot. Like there's a relationship happening, but is at the forefront? No. I think a lot of her books, there's so many character relationships, like friendships and sisterships and like family like situations that are the forefront of her books more than the actual like romantic relationship in her books. And I think maybe this was one of them. I loved how this was written. I loved having this other dual POV kind of plot point of this book with Margaret's story. I know a lot of people didn't like that because they were like, this is taking away from the story, but I think Margaret's story had the romantic and romance in her story as well as the main two characters of this book had. I love the setting. Again, this kind of read like right before summer came out, and it was set on like this Georgia coastal town. I think there's a trend. I love a good coastal town. I was raised on the coast, and I loved going to the coast as much as I could. So any chance I get to read about a coast thing, I'm probably going to eat it up. I think it was the perfect amount of romance. I think it took a bit for the main relationship to develop, yes. But like I said before, Margaret's story fills in the gap of romance in this book for me. I think this book was really well written. I think this was the best female lead, like main character in all of Emily Henry's books. And I know a lot of people will fight me on that, but I think she has her faults, but that doesn't make her, that doesn't like, that's not her forefront. She's aware of her faults and her issues, and she works through her faults and kind of discovers herself. She has her like redeemable kind of arc. There is a grumpy sunshine in this. Is it really she grumpy for very long? I don't know. The rivalry kind of fades pretty quickly between these two, which is the only thing I'd say is like could have lasted longer, in my opinion. I love exploring the other relationships in this book and how they ebb and flow. I love the setting, like I mentioned before. A great book for a beach read, if I must say. But I do love this. I love the very like ending of this book, like the last page, the last kind of quote that ties this and puts the title into it. I think it's beautiful. I don't know if I shed a tear while reading this book, but I would not be surprised if I did. And our last book of the 2025 season is Immortal Dark. I also did a video on this book. I will have that linked. This book was something that was on my TBR for like a year, and I just never got to it because I thought it was too dark and I didn't want to be in that mindset. And I should have picked it up sooner because after I finished this book, I was like, I'm getting the second book when it comes out, which I did the second book. I just have not read it yet. So that's on me. That's definitely going to be my 2026 TBR list. But basically, this follows Gideon. She's wanted for murder at the very beginning of this book. She's the like only family she has left. Her sister got like taken, and she's trying to figure out who that is. That's kind of why she's running for murder. They grew up away from this arcane society that their family's associated with, so they are not aware of like the magic that they possess, where they can go to. There's a vampire that Gideon suspects took her sister, because in this world, their vampires coexist with the humans in this one little area, and the vampires are kind of like the human servants, kind of. They like kind of like, I don't want to say worship the family, but they like work for the family. She ends up finding out that she is one of the inheritants of this house at Ulaxley University, and that if she does not attend this university, the house is going to go to her house vampire, that's the vampire that she suspects took her sister. So she goes to save her house, but also to find more answers on trying to find her sister. This vampire and her, I mean, when I say enemies, I mean like they are constantly trying to either harm each other or get one or the other kicked out of this like university thing. None of them are letting up. Even when this book ends, they're still not really trusting each other. They go back and forth between like, okay, I trust you, and then something happens and they go, oh, wait, hold on a second. Can I trust you kind of thing? And usually back and forth I don't like, but it just works in this book. I don't know how to explain it. I love how this is like a different style of vampire books. It's not your traditional kind of like, oh, I got in the sun and I glisten in the sun. And I do love a dark academic book. So this is like checking off all the book kind of things I love. And it's a dark, like Victorian university. There's dark magic, unique magic. There's vampires. There's like romance. There's murder. There's rainy kind of days. There's a whole kind of like secret society. A lot of character growth, I must say. The main character, she does a lot of growing in this book, must I say, and I'm excited to see her journey in the second book. I'm not sure how the second book's really going to go. I understand how it's going to lead into it, but I don't know where it's going to take off from that. Her main goal in this book is to find her sister. It kind of gets put on the back burner a smidge bit with everything else that kind of gets thrown at her with the university and finding out some of these secrets. Relationship wise, I mean, yeah, when I say enemies lovers, I mean like enemies. Like I said, they're at each other's throats. They don't even really become lovers in this book, to be honest with you. Plot wise, I mean, I was gripped from the start. Each like chapter kind of leads you to like another like cliffhanger about wanting to learn about this stuff. So I could not put this book down. I think I read this book in 2 days, and I wanted more. I was like, this second book needs to come out now. This also has a lot of Ethiopian and like mythical like myths being put out in this book, incorporated into this, which I think is very unique, very cool. That it's a very different take on vampires, and I really love that. It kind of gives another thing that came out this year that also gives a unique take on vampires is Sinners, and I would say if you like Sinners, you probably might like this book. Just putting it out there. I could not believe that this book was YA. It did not read YA at all. Not because it's very gory and dark, but because the writing level was higher than I expected and the characters' decisions were very thought out. It read like an adult fantasy. I can't believe that this is the author's debut novel because it's amazing, hands down 5 stars, and it's everything I was looking for. And I'm excited to pick up the second book. I hope you enjoyed and stuck around to hear about all these books. I hope you got some recommendations. I would, like I said at the very beginning of this video, to hear your thoughts on some of these books if you've read them. Let me know some books that you want to read. Let me know anything about your books. What's on your TBR for 2026? I love getting book recommendations. So if you have any recommendations for me, you notice the books that I like and you'd like to give me some recommendations, please do. And I hope everyone has a great 2026.